Okay, good day. So it's just gone Brahma Muhurta, which is the golden hour, golden 2 hours for practicing meditation yoga first thing in the morning. So generally I'll practice meditation for that period of time, or within that period of time, and then afterwards I can share, hopefully. So I thought this morning, as the sun's just coming up, thought we'd just go through some prop possibilities that you can utilize if you're at home and you haven't got props, or you don't think you have props. So there are various things that you can utilize, and sometimes they're things that are really quite useful for other things that you can just you can just borrow. For example, not that there's many left on the shelves at the moment, or maybe there is now, I'm not sure because I haven't been out for a while, but the paper towels that you can get hold of in the supermarkets generally act as a nice soft block. So rather than having a firm block like so to support in various postures, you can use a soft block. So I find this can be quite useful for certain positions and maybe balance postures and things like that. That's one particular possibility you can utilize. If you want a harder block, of course you can use a book, a nice thick book, wrap it up in some duct tape or something like that, and it does serve quite well as a hard block. So that's another possibility. Strap, you can use I don't know, either a massive belt or a couple of belts together, or a piece of rope or something like that. It doesn't have to be a belt that you buy from a particular yoga shop, although these ones tend to be quite useful for the adjustment purposes, of course. Yeah. This one is highly useful, and I'll show you how to utilize this for various poses and postures to help with visceral organ realignment, neck release, detrusor muscle release, that's the bladder muscle release, and all those sort of things. 2 tennis balls, put in a sock. You might find something very similar being sold at certain allied health professional shops. If you want to buy them, I'm not saying don't, but I'm just saying there's a much cheaper option generally, and these are actually just as good, if not better. So 2 tennis balls, what's that going to cost? What, about 50 cents or something each? Maybe not even that. Put those 2 50 cents in there, so that's $1. Nice in a sock. I know if you get a value pack from Big W or whatever shop, which country you're in, then you probably get one for about, I don't know, one sock is equivalent to about 20 cents, isn't it? 20 Australian cents. Squeeze them both down to the bottom of the sock. Squeeze a little bit more than a weak clutch, so you're just sort of squeezing them both down a little bit more than usual, and then twist them round. So you're twisting it round a few times. Once you twist them round, tie a knot. So now we have 2 tennis balls in a sock, which you can start to use for certain postures and helping optimize those postures and go into the health benefits that I'll show you in a minute. So I usually do another wrap up of the sock if it's a big sock, twist it around again, DIY prop making, it's cool, isn't it? And then make it nice and aesthetic. Cosmetic purposes, there we go. I call that a peanut. Usually if I'm taking a class I say, go and get your peanuts, and then we can do some poses that are going to be utilising this to open up certain areas such as the back of the neck. So popping it at the back of the neck, rotating the neck round a few times. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Another place to pop it is just above the pubic bone, when you're lying on your front prone and just rocking from side to side. That helps to loosen helps to invigorate actually the detrusor muscle of the bladder, so the bladder muscle, and then relax it right after you've invigorated it. So you invigorate it to feel it, get a sense of it. Sometimes these regions go a bit numb, like you might have heard from some of my other posts. Okay, another one which is quite useful, another practice, is by putting the peanut into the groin, holding on to your shin region, and then just rotating around like so. That's helping to stimulate at the moment the sigmoidal region, the kind of like the last part of the large intestines. Quite good to massage that region sometimes. It's quite deep within the abdominal wall, and so it does take a little bit of squeezing in order to actually feel it and to release it. Same the other side, squeezing in, same thing. This time it's more the sort of cecum sort of region, iliocecal sort of connection point. If you're a little bit more obese, or you have a little bit of body fat around this area, kind of like restricting you from doing this movement, then I'll show you another one in just a second. Okay. This is another option with that peanut. Dust down your bolster, especially if you're living in the bush. If you haven't got a bolster, get a couple of pillow slips, and sorry, just one pillow slips, but a couple of blankets. Put the blankets inside the pillow slip, and yeah, maybe you roll them up first, or pack them in, maybe a few blankets or towels or something like in the pillow slip. Then yeah, Bob's your uncle. You got a bolster. Just make sure obviously you tie the end off, or you just maybe just put a little bit of tape at the end of it. Doesn't have to be too aesthetic. Who's going to be watching? Okay, so this is the next option. I might spend a little bit of time in this particular post, so I actually really like it. A little bit decadent, yeah. Right, I might not quite see that, so I'll take it down a tad. Yeah. So we're going into this sort of pigeon pose sort of position, aren't we? I always suggest, if you're not used to the pigeon pose, definitely use a bolster. And even if you are used to the pigeon pose, I would use a bolster anyway. I think sometimes we can stress and strain the lateral hip rotators unnecessarily. If you stress the lateral hip rotators, you're stressing the sciatic nerve as well, because it passes through them. Peanut goes into that kind of like fold around the upper groin, and then we just lean down into it. I have to make sure I'm not crushing the microphone connection. And we lean down into it like so. And then we can just gently mobilise a little bit from side to side. This is helping to massage that area I talked about just now, so that cecum, the cecum sort of region. Once you've got used to that, you can start moving towards the foot a little bit. Always coming out of these sort of poses nice and slowly, bit by bit. You don't have to choreograph it, just listen to your own body as to what feels most appropriate to come out of the pose. That's one side, and of course your other side is going to be begging to do the same thing. So that we will do. Actually, so you can see the other sides and how it corresponds. Let's do it this side. So into that groin region just there, upper groin, and lean down into it. So you're leaning down into the peanut and just massage it. This is tighter. For me, it's tighter this side. Who knows why? It might be just a diurnal thing. It might be, you know, a daily pattern. First thing in the morning, it might be tight on the left, might be tight on the right at the end of the day. Who knows? Okay, let's start to move towards the foot once you've massaged it off. Recommending a period of time that you feel your body turn fluid. So once your body starts to relax into the pose, becomes a little bit more pliable, giving, river-like, that's the time that possibly is quite sufficient, so you can come back up then. I do recommend that you put your shin perpendicular to your body. This means you're not again overstressing certain areas of the hip joint, so it gives you kind of like a little bit of an extra lever to actually work into. Yeah, that's quite sufficient. So you can actually jettison that after a while because you won't need it. And you can carry on doing whatever you feel is more appropriate. You can start to traction yourself a little bit by using your foot, traction yourself into a position, and feel other muscles starting to open. Okay, now I did post a warm-up that I did yesterday evening. It was a very windy evening, but it gives you an idea that you don't just jump into these poses straight away. You do need to warm up just to get a felt sense of the body, really. And then, you know, physiologically speaking, obviously you're helping the blood circulate a little bit more, the juices of the body to enter into the membranes and so on. So yeah, very useful to warm up to begin with. Okay, so that's most of what I wanted to go over. I will now share something based around some of the more intrinsic postures that you might find quite useful.